Alright, so this is Stryker of Enyo, of course. And so I keep getting these messages and I keep seeing these types of videos and whatnot on the Dreamcast 2 is coming out, it's real, this time it's really happening, over and over again. So, and I just wanted to, finally put this thing to rest, because, a lot of people some are getting really excited, some are, foaming at the mouth. Literally, I walk down the street, and when I see people foaming at the mouth, I'm like, hey, did you know you're foaming at the mouth? And they're like, oh yeah, the Dreamcast 2, oh my god, it's gonna happen. And I say, well, first, let me slap you in the face, to bring you back to reality, and then we can talk after that. And they're like, okay, go ahead. And then we talk after that, and we get some coffee and some donuts, and they're like, oh, thank you for explaining that, kind sir. I was completely retarded. Yeah. So I keep hearing about it over and over again, so I have to address it. And it's literally the first of the year. I thought I might get a little bit of a break. Quite honestly, I got way too many clips that I need to use because they're going to expire. So, and this is apparently the first thing I'm going to comment on. So, you've probably seen it. Trying to find their main thing. It's called Project Dream. Actually, projectdream.co. So, and they have these mock-up shots of a black console with Dreamcast, seemingly laser engraved on the top of it, and a disc for Shenmue 3, sliding inside of it. But basically, what it is, it's a group called Project Dream. They're using the Dreamcast logo, of course. But all it is they are making a proposal to Sega, which will include a go-to-market strategy, hardware, software, and prototypes. I'm sorry about the footage. I know, I understand that it would probably be better if I use something like Alien Isolation, something that Sega actually produced. But let me just get through this, okay? So it's basically, they're making a simple letter to Sega and include various R&D elements, of it. They're building a proposal. That's all it is. And they're getting a petition signed. I think they got like 22,000 signatures so far. Yeah, they're putting ideas together. They supposedly have interns from Sega of Japan with them. Let me grab... Nope, that's not the one. There was one that actually went more in depth. They have like this mock-up. It looks like the Neo Geo Pocket. The portable thing that came. It looks like they have a version of that somehow with X, Y, A, and B buttons on it. Showing, a handheld unit as well, which is ridiculous. So, they're all doing this. They're trying to make a competitively priced PC that will run all of Sega's old and new games alike. So they're trying to get it not only to run previous Dreamcast games, but also Sega Saturn games. I guess they're trying to get it to run the cartridges too. HDMI compatible devices. So that's what it is. There's a Sega Bits forum, I guess, that they've been posting on. And there's a guy named Patrick Larson that seems to be kind of behind it. Like I said, without getting into too much detail. So, okay, aside from that, it's a proposal that these guys are doing. They are no way affiliated with Sega. They have no standing with Sega. They're just proposing, hey, you should come out with a Dreamcast 2. This is how you could do it. This is how, blah blah blah. And it's like, you understand that Sega, for one thing. Look, I hate to break it to you, but I've told people over and over and over again. Whenever someone brings up a Dreamcast 2, at first I'm like, oh, I appreciate, your consideration. I mean, yes, it would be kind of cool. But in reality, Sega's never going to make a Dreamcast 2. Sega never, ever, 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 ever is going to make a Dreamcast 2. Even if they wanted to, they can't make a Dreamcast 2. Even one of the co-founders of Sega, you'll see a quote, Kalinske? Bernie Stoller came in later, I believe, right? But yeah, I mean, even one of the co-founders originally said that Sega never should have got into the hardware business. They just didn't. They just never should have, and they never should have competed like that. They were $760 million in the hole. When they started during the Genesis era. They were losing quite a bit of money. I should say by the time they got into Saturn. By the time they got into Saturn, they were quite in the negative. But Sega's never going to do it. For one thing, you need a company that is actually doing very well. And it's plain to see Sega is not doing well right now. On February 1st, well, around that time, February 2nd of 2015, Sega was announcing a restructuring of its subsidiaries, its projects, and they were actually projecting a $125 million loss for 2015 fiscal year. And this restructuring at that time in February of 2015 was the loss of 300 jobs. Sega divided the company into 3 divisions, which was Sega Holdings, which does the video games, Sega Interactive, which does pachinko machines, and the Pack-a-Slot machines. It must be Hacky-Slot, and Sega Live Creation, which is the amusement park side of it. And Sega Networks and Sega Corporation, the divisions that were previously responsible for PC as well as console games and mobile titles, have merged under the Sega Holdings banner. So that's what was going on then. Sega Alien Isolation, of course, did very well. It sold about 1.8 million in sales. But the thing is that whenever Sega has a good selling game, I mean, even if you want to include Aliens Colonial Marines, Sega needs to be the kind of company that Gabe Newell is running. Sega needs to be as successful as Steam has been. They need to be as successful as Valve is. They need to be as successful as someone like Bethesda. Steam is doing so well, that now they're coming out with these Steam machines, right? And you would think, well, that's kind of silly, but it's kind of like they're making their own console. Granted, there's nothing that's proprietary yet, games that'll only work on Steam or whatnot. They're just trying to make it easier. But, Sega needs to have that kind of success. They need to have the kind of success that Bethesda does. Having stuff like Elder Scrolls and Fallout 3. Huge games that are hugely successful. Sega doesn't have that. I believe Sega, they were pulling in about $230 million a year at one point, and then, now you hear about the $125 million loss. Well, then that basically brings them down to, or maybe it was just about $200 million. But, regardless, I believe they're only at maybe $25 million at the moment. They've been slowly going down. It's like 25, 35 million they're basically pulling in a year. They are doing really bad. And it's really a shame. It's a Jesus, just keep on shooting, huh? And of course Sonic Boom came out, and that thing was I believe it's barely sold 500 units combined between 3DS and the Wii U. 490,000 units. The lowest in the franchise history for a Sonic game. So it's stuff like that, you know, Sega screws up on. Whereas, sure, it might not be AM2, the studio. AMD? Well, I mean, it's their company, but it's not the normal people that work on a Sonic game. This was actually an outside company, I believe. But yeah, I mean, they screwed the pooch on it. The game wasn't ready, and you know they're hurting Sega's name. You know, same thing with Alien Colonial Marines. You know, it wasn't Sega. Sega was just putting the money into the game, but it was the company that was working on it, who unfortunately also did Borderlands. You know, they were the ones that screwed up, and Sega suffered for that too. So, I mean, Sega needs to be doing really good, and they're not. You know, Sega. Where was the other thing here? You know, they became a third-party publisher in 2001. They became acquired by pachinko manufacturer Sammy in 2004. In 2008, the company cut 400 jobs after an extremely weak fiscal performance. So, yeah. And in all honesty, without getting too big into it, and R&D costs, when you're talking about a physical console and you're bringing it to market, you're looking at $1 billion. You're going to spend $1 billion getting that system into people's hands as much as possible. And the thing is that the first console that you put out, you might end up breaking even, or you might end up actually suffering a loss on it. Or you're going to be running losses for several months consecutively, if not several years. So, I mean, that's what Xbox had to go through. I believe Samus Blackley, the designer of the original Xbox, you know, he said that they actually, you know, in order to get that machine into people's hands, you know, they spent, I think it was $1 billion, you know, R&D and everything else. And they actually ran it at possibly a loss. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, not to mention, you know, the millions upon millions it'll take to start, you know, doing this kind of stuff. But yeah, some people signing a petition online, they're not going to be the ones that decide this. Sega is in no shape or form do they even have the technical merit to be able to do this anymore. You know, the people that were there designing hardware that were good at it, you know, have long left Sega. And a bunch of interns that worked at Sega of Japan, they're not going to be the ones that are going to be knowledgeable enough, you know, to put something like this out. So, I'm sorry, but Dreamcast 2 is never, ever going to happen. You know, they would have to be doing very well, like some of the other third-party publishers. But really, being a third-party publisher ain't so bad. Look at Bethesda. Look at Valve. They're doing okay. So, hey, just wanted to let you know. Peace out.